What's going on, everyone? Really excited to be here today for episode number 4 of Ready, Set, Sell. My name is Michael Ciervo, and I'm here with, again, special co-host and business partner extraordinaire, Mr. Donnie Wong. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
Pretty good. We're now at episode number 4, and the title of this one is The End is Near.
The end is nigh.
The end is nigh, right? So over the next 11 minutes, what we're going to talk about is a few things. One, first topic is excellence is not accidental. Then we'll talk about the last days on earth. Then, Donnie, we're going to talk about accelerating through the wreckage. And then, sales is a contact sport, so which is going to lead into next year. So the whole premise, really, when I talk about the end is near, is essentially the fact that, when you take a look at how this year is ending, how can we set ourselves up for a fantastic Q1?
And this is where, of all the sales leaders, I think Grant Cardone really is the cheerleader for this one. And because they scream it from the mountaintop, it's Q4, and here's the best part. All of your competitors, all of your other sales people in the same company, they're all lulling to sleep. Christmas is coming. It's probably, 4 weeks until Christmas is coming. Everyone's pretty much already on nap mode. They're kind of just sliding in. This is time to step on it. Mm-hmm. This is the time to absolutely pull up the bootstraps, get going, and understand that, no, we're not going to peter off to the end of the year. We're going to smash it. We're going to break records. We're going to do more sales. We're going to get more leads. We're going to get more closes. We're going to make it happen.
Like what he said. The first topic, Donnie, we're going to talk about is excellence is not accidental. You take a look at the world, you see all these fantastic people who've done amazing things in their life, who really changed the world, visionary. You got a great example you were telling me earlier today. Maybe share it with the audience.
It was pretty crazy. It was actually a story a couple of years ago from Jeff Bezos, who congratulations, Jeff, you just had your most incredible quarter, the Q3 2020. They did 38% year over year, and they ended off with, I think, a $39 billion quarter, something like that. But years ago, Jeff just had another record-breaking quarter, and the press they were applauding him. They said, Jeff, congratulations on an incredible quarter. What do you have to say about it? And Jeff Bezos actually ended up saying, well, this quarter was actually planned 2 years ago. So the fact that we had these results is not spectacular or surprising to us whatsoever. This was planned and executed 2 years ago. We're actually right now planning 2 years, the quarter 2 years from now. Wow. And of all the examples we can talk about, that is true to exactly the DNA of what we're talking about today.
And it reinforces the strength of a visionary. Yes. You have to see the future before anyone can see it. You got to see it 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the road and start planning to get out there. I mean, you're never going to go hiking or camping and you have no clue where you're going to go, right? Because a bear's going to eat you. Something's going to happen, right? It's that preparation. I always tell people, you don't fail to plan, you plan to fail. Mm-hmm. No one ever plans to fail, right? But is that right? You don't plan to fail, you fail to plan?
Yes,
that's
right.
Right. So it's all, when we talk about excellence is not an accident. And Jeff Bezos is a great example. And, he's the richest man in the world, not by accident. So huge. And I love that idea that he planned success. He saw success, and it was just about executing.
If I may add in there, the bigger your vision, the more planning it's going to take, because it's all about execution, right? Gary Vaynerchuk says this all the time. Ideas are shit. Execution is everything. Right. And the key to execution is consistency, because consistency is everything. So if you want to guarantee consistency, you'd better have the preparation down pat, because the last thing you want to do is get to game time and not have a game plan or not be sharp enough to execute the plays that you guys have planned. That's where the old phrase goes, perfect practice
makes perfect.
Makes perfect.
Right. And that goes back to that confidence. Like back in episode number 1 and 2, we talked about confidence. The more you're planning, the more you're confident in executing. It's interesting. I always tell people that, strategizing is a commodity. Execution is an art, right? Yeah, everyone can talk about strategy. It's so easy. It's so fun. It's really nice to talk about it. But when it comes time to execute, that's hugely important. And that's where you're going to reap the benefits of all that hard work. Don, I'll ask you a question. There's this movie with James Franco. I think it's like the end of the world or something like that. It's hilarious, right? But I think to myself, If the world was ending, what would you do?
If the world was ending and we had, 40 some odd days?
Yeah,
I
let's
guess
say,
60
yeah.
days from now, what would we do? If the world was ending in 60 days, what would I do? Well, I would go out. I would go out like a wild son of a bitch. I'll tell you that much.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? The reason why I bring that up is the world, or the sales world, is ending. Like we're in Q4. When you think about that, there's roughly, at the time of filming, a little under 60 days or something.
I think 43 working days is what
43. Yes. So there's 43 working days. That's not a lot of days.
Mm-hmm.
So if we go liken this back to the end of days, the world is going to end. What am I going to do? I'm going to spend time with those I care about and love and who's the most important to me. How do you translate that into the business and sales setting? You talk to your top clients. Now's the time to do it. Let them know how much they're important to you. Let them know how much you appreciate them for all the support. What else would you do?
I would come as a sales trainer. As a sales trainer, this is where I would get my top guys locked in, right? I would get my top guys, my top sales leaders, and make sure that we're focused on the mission. Because the sales guys, top sales leaders, they're the ones that disseminate the message. They're the ones that continue the culture on the sales office. So I'd make sure my top guys are firing on all cylinders. I'll make sure that everyone is locked in and determined to hit their goals this year. From that, we're going to make sure that we also get the rest of the sales crew locked and loaded as well. I might be giving different incentives, especially those who are traveling home. If you have sales crew that are from different cities, we know that they might lose some of their gusto. Find ways to incentivize, find ways to bring the energy up so that you're sprinting to the finish line.
Speaking of sprinting to the finish line, there's an analogy. I always tell people, accelerate through the wreckage. And it goes back to what you're saying, is like pedal to the metal. This is when you do it. So the analogy is this: if you ever watch NASCAR or NASCAR, there's races. Oftentimes there's a crash. What they tell the drivers to do is not to slow down because there's wreckage in front of you. It's to accelerate through the wreckage, accelerate through the crash. So when there's some chaos and stuff happening, you gotta go hard. When you feel like you need to slow down, you should be slowing down. That's not when you do it. Be a little bit more contrarian. Going back to your point, now is the time to start putting the pedal to the metal.
I love that analogy, that accelerate through the wreckage. I'm going to tattoo that on my arm.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting. And the reason being is, the mindset of a lot of our competitors now, as we approach the holidays, is, would you agree that it's a lot more, some of them are just packing in. They're like, hey, I got 42 days left. I got, 4 weeks left, or whatever it might be. They're already planning on vacation.
And this is where I'll challenge the audience today. And remember that you're not competing against those guys. You're not competing against the schlep that's already packed up and on vacation. You're competing against the top percent. Mm-hmm. You're competing against the top percent that already knows, hey, everyone else is sleeping. I'm about to turn it up. I'm about to eat their lunch.
Right.
I want to take their lunch money. Follow me. And so you're not competing against them, nor are you ever competing against them. So don't ever set your bar or any sort of comparison to them. You're competing against the top percent. So the real question is, how are you going to beat the top 1%, take their market share, take their lunch money, and really make sure that this Christmas you're going home a champion?
Speaking of champions, big shout out to LeBron James. Congratulations on winning his 4th NBA championship. After he celebrated, apparently he was back at the gym already preparing for the next year. That's the mindset of a champion.
As all champions do. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love that. I love the idea that you are preparing yourself. It's a huge mindset. I know that, Donnie, you talk a lot about mindset. So how do you get yourself in that mindset to get ready for Q1? What do you do psychologically to prep yourself and not become lazy?
One of the big things I do is I plan my next year in October. And so I actually take an entire month to kind of set forward my goals, but I don't actually plan my goals out. I do in the sense of kind of milestones and whatnot, but I plan my habits. And so that's actually how I plan. We all know your SMART goals and whatnot, but that's simple. You have it on paper. You got to make sure it's attainable. You got to make sure that you can do it. You got to set the timelines of when you're going to reach them. But after that, there's no mechanisms that may ensure that you're going to hit the goals. So what I actually do is I set my goals, but I set my habits, what habits I'm going to work on, and I call these dominoes. And so what dominoes are is literally the one thing that if I did ensures success in my goals. So a couple of years ago, one of my goals was, okay, it might be save money, save X amount of dollars. Well, how do I ensure that I'm going to save money? Well, I need the one thing, dig deep, and you're going to kind of work backwards of the one thing that's going to guarantee success. Well, if you're going to lose money, if you're going to try and save money, the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find where I spend the most money, or more importantly, where do I waste the most money? At that time, it was eating out.
Wow.
So how do I make sure I stop eating out? I'll make sure I never leave the house without a packed lunch. Enforcing that domino will ensure that I save the money, which will guarantee success in my goals. And so I set my dominoes in October, and I start working on them in October so that I build these habits so that by Q1 of the next year, my habits are entrenched, guaranteeing that as long as I do the work and show up, which if you're listening to this podcast, you're showing up to work. The habits are what's going to help you win.
Absolutely. And you know what? We're winding down, but want to reinforce to everyone listening that yes, the end is near. Not necessarily the end of our lives, but the end of could be a fiscal year, it could be the calendar year. But if we liken that to the fact that there's only a limited amount of days, you want to maximize the amount of energy and maximize the amount of effectiveness that you put in every single day. You do that by accelerating through the wreckage. You do that by practicing excellence, making excellence a habit, not just a fluke, doing what you did, really focusing on goals and creating that habit, right? Looking back on the things you did well, things you did poorly, and making that change. Donnie, with that said, an amazing 11 minutes. You're awesome. You know, for all of you guys out there listening, subscribe, listen to us. Hopefully this was of value. And again, thank you so much for your time.